Hey Hailey, it's Dr. Scott. I have some feedback for you on your visual analysis draft. Quick reminder of what I'm looking for in the assignment. I'm looking for a thesis statement that's focused, that has strong supporting reasons, and I'm thinking about supporting reasons being your paragraphs in this essay. So each paragraph is a reason why you think the murals show appreciation, or whatever it is you're trying to argue. I'm also looking for your use of supporting details to support your argument. So you have strong details in the paragraphs, but then within those paragraphs, you're also discussing how the details support the overall argument. Also looking at your use of organization and transitions, that your paragraphs are placed in locations where it makes sense why you have them there. Looking for a couple paraphrases that are integrated into your essay. Also MLA works cited in formatting, and use of a visual, and a paragraph without any be verbs. Okay, so that's what I'm looking for. I think what you need to focus on right now is the thesis, the overall argument for the paper. There's some discussion maybe we can have about details, but I think the argument for the paper for me is the place where you need to put in some work between now and when the revision's due next Friday. So right now, I think the thesis statement is here. With these murals being a visual representation of Portsmouth Past, the labor union and industrial heritage murals are the backbone of why this town proves itself to this day. This part is pretty fuzzy to me. Like, I'm not exactly sure what you're saying. Like, I know later on, like, you have a personal connection to labor unions and to, the working class in this area, and I think that's awesome. And I think, actually, one of my suggestions is that you make the introduction about that to kind of set up, kind of explain, like, here's why why this working class community kind of matters and why labor unions might matter. You set that up in the introduction, and you kind of work your way to, you go from I appreciate labor unions and our working class background to these murals are showing us that they appreciate, that we as a community appreciate the same things. But as far as like this here, like, it's confusing on two levels. Like, I'm not exactly sure what you're talking about, like the backbone of why this town proves itself to this day. So it's not really telling me what you're arguing just yet. And it's also not telling me how you're going to back that up. So something like, and I'm going to use a word that you use later on in your essay quite a bit, and that's the word appreciate. With these murals being a visual representation of Portsmouth Past, industrial heritage murals convey Portsmouth's for its collar roots through the use of, and it's that part right now that really kind of needs to get figured out, like through the use of, like, what are those individual paragraphs about? Is it through the actions that they convey? Is it through the symbols that they integrate? Is it through how they represent work, how they represent labor? That's like something that really does need to be figured out between now and the revision. Like, messing around with integrating an image and all that kind of stuff, like, you can kind of put that on the back burner until you figure out, like, what is it that you're really kind of arguing here. So appreciation might be the word that helps you figure that out. Pride might also be the word. I think you kind of hint at that. Whatever it is, you need to have something that's kind of debatable. And then it's like, how is that conveyed? Is it through, or how is that communicated to, how is it communicated through the murals to the people that, like, live here, that are visiting? How do they get that across? And I see you kind of hinting at colors. That might be something that you could work with. The actions that are in the mural, I think that could also work. But this is really kind of where your work needs to be right now. I think later on in the paper, I think you kind of struggle to kind of get a start here. There's stuff in here that I see that's like, it's kind of like more introductory material or stuff that you could use in a conclusion. I think your personal connection to the pipe fitting industry, I think that's totally relevant. Probably not in a body paragraph, but maybe in an introduction or conclusion. And I think that is pretty much my feedback it's the argument, figuring out the argument right now. You can't really even get into talking about the details and whether or not they're supporting the argument until we figure out what exactly that argument is. So again, the thing that I kind of keep coming back to is like, if you make the essay about this, how do the murals get that across? And once you have an answer to that, that can be your supporting reasons, that those are your paragraphs. You're able to get into, get both murals into a conversation about the different ways that the murals get that idea of appreciation across. Then I think you're kind of off and running, and then we can talk about how you're using details. So, just to quickly recap, you need to clarify the paper's overall argument. Where are you going with it? Figure out the how. How do these murals convey that sense of appreciation, pride, whatever argument that you're trying to come up with. Get each paragraph to focus on one of those hows, like the ways that they convey that idea. And then I think using the introduction to convey the importance of labor unions in our area, if you want to use the introduction as a way to talk about your personal connection, like, I'm all for that. I think that totally works. So that's my feedback right now. There's a lot to work with. If you want to get together and chat early next week about your revision ideas, I'd be happy to do that. I think we're going to spend Tuesday and Thursday in class next week talking, or you'll have time to actually kind of write and revise. So that might be a time to chat, but I'd be happy to speak with you Monday or throughout next week. All right, that's it for now. Talk to you soon.